talking about something's bigger than something else, but of course it brings in the other one depending upon what I judge it against. Well then, you see what we mean by bigness. I'm inviting you, right, to reflect on what we're talking about, because I want to know whether the thing I'm talking about is one or two. Look, when I say two pieces of chalk, one's bigger than the other, bigger, is that one thing? Bigness, that's one thing. No, bigness is related to smallness. Looks like I need to reflect on this a little more. Second kind of judgments, you have to reflect a little more. This is easy, the first class of judgments, very easy. Solution. Well, solution is, you know what you have to do? You have to invite the intellect, you have to invite your mind to contemplate the great and the small as distinct entities. Take it out of the class of comparatives. You have to pull it away. You have to say, what is bigness after all? Consider them as distinct entities. Now what have you got to forget that relative business for a moment? Now once you do that, you raise yourself to this question. Right now you can ask, what in the world is the great and the small? Because now we're pulling it away from particular judgments. We want to know, is there anything in the nature of reality that's great and small? Or is it just a made-up concept? Well, wait a minute. Have you ever seen a great mountain? Yeah. Is there some idea of greatness in that? Is that something you can grasp as you perceive it? People now. All people the same, or have you encountered greatness? Now, what is that greatness, whether it's in a mountain or in a person? What is it? Huh. Well, look here. Look here. That's the origin of this distinction between these two realms. That's what he says. Remember what we said earlier? This kind of thinking pulls you out of this realm, the visible, the world of becoming, and gets you thinking about subjects which are very strange, and invites the understanding to ask this question: what in the world is the great or the small? Look here, is there anything magnificent? Is there anything that has some vastness to it? I mean, is it there? What is it? What is it when it's there? Is it just a conclusion from sensation that we draw? Yeah, but is it there? Well, now I'm pulling out of the world of becoming, and I'm now dealing with whether or not there are a class of things you can talk about independent of sense experience. Right? That's what we're doing. Now look here. Third class. Remember 1, 2, 3? Then he turns around and he says, all right, now that you see this, what? Now that you see there's these two kinds of thinking, in what class does number and one belong? That's the question. Okay? That's the working question now. Well, we know one thing. If either is adequately apprehended by perception, as with finger, you won't need to invite the intellect to inquire. I mean, anything you can understand fully, grasp fully, apprehend fully, by perception, you don't have to invite thought. But look here. In order to know what class, number, and one belong, shouldn't you know what one is? What is the one? Also talks that way. Look at what we just did. What is one what? One chair? One person? One marker? What happens then when you stick this curious little word in there? It makes it into a substantive as if it exists in its own right. Well, that's right. That's what it does. Now, why does he talk about the one? Oh, I forgot to tell you something, but you already know, but I want to remind you now. The idea of the good, remember? The idea of the good is equally expressed as the one. Look here. The highest concept, the good, is also described as the one. The one, the good. Now, what's the relationship between this highest term called the one and number one? Oh, look here. I know what to do. We'll just figure out what one is, and then we can decide what, see, in what class it belongs, and then we can worry about its metaphysical significance. So wait a minute, or do we have to first know what it is before we can put it into a class? Well, look here. He shifts now, and this is what he says about this study. All right? We have to inquire into what is the one as such. That is, some other translations call it, what after all is the nature of the one. Other translations vary it, but this is a pretty good one. What is the one as such? And this is why he considers it very important. He says, this is one of the studies that guide and convert the soul to the contemplation of being. That's what it does. Well then, what does that mean? Well, let's see if we inherit a problem here. If there are two things, and each is distinct one from the other, then together they're two. Together they're two. Let's get two things quite distant from one another just to play for a moment. Let's call one a contemplating philosopher, all right? Now here he is contemplating, all right? And over here, let's get someone on the other extreme and say, here we have a warrior. All right, a warrior, soldier, warrior, contemplating philosopher. Now, we have two, there are two of them, and each is one. And together they're two. But if, would you not agree? Any time, however, if you get two things, if they're inseparable, then they're one. Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought I'll turn the page for a moment.
This is one of the studies that guide and convert? Is that the study of numbers?
You got it.